Good afternoon and welcome to Race Matters. Today we're going to talk about why can't we talk about race? And we would mean mainly Americans. Well, I think there are several reasons why we don't talk about race. I talk about this quite a bit with black friends and white friends, and I've come up with some things that I continually hear of why we don't do more of this. First of all, it's one of my favorite subjects. Like I just love talking about it, and mainly because very few people want to talk about it. I think it's an important thing, and I think it's something that we have to grow in and we have to get better at. But I'm going to talk about some reasons why I think white people don't want to talk about race. Number one, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Talking about race is uncomfortable for whites. The first thing is, hey, I'm scared I might say the wrong thing. What if I say the wrong thing? Well, I've already told you, with me, you can't say the wrong thing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't say something dumb, all right? Or that doesn't mean you can't say something that could get you in trouble, that even I can't protect you from. But with me, if it's just me and you and one-on-one, as long as you're trying, you can't say the wrong thing to me. I give you carte blanche to ask dumb questions. I give you carte blanche to say how you feel, because how could we ever have a conversation about this if all I'm going to do is sit there and judge you? I'm not one of these people sitting there waiting to be offended. Trust me, I've been offended a lot in my life when it comes to race. I'm not one of these people sitting around going, oh, he said this or he said that, or how could he make that statement, or oh my goodness, he did this or he said that. Now, if you're just saying stupid stuff and you're just trying to be funny and you're not funny, or you're trying to say stuff and you don't know what you're talking about, okay, I'm going to have a problem with that. But if you make an honest mistake, you say something, and I've used this example before. If you were to come in to me and say, Tony, why do black people eat so much fried chicken? First thing I would say to you is, man, you've been paying attention. Because we do eat a lot of fried chicken. Okay? I mean, we do. How am I going to get angry about that? Oh, that's racist. You can't say that. Of course you can say it. If you've been paying attention, if you go into any Kentucky Fried Chicken line in the South, if you go to if you follow black people out of a Baptist church and go see where they go for lunch, many times they are going to get some fried chicken. Either they're going home to fry it or they're going somewhere where it's already fried. I'm sorry. Those are facts. And I'm not getting mad at anybody. Okay? I've seen it. So that's not going to bother me. You're not going to bother me with stuff like that. I'm not going to sit here talking about waiting to get offended. Now, unfortunately, there are black people out there that are just waiting to get offended. And if you're that person and you want to have a dialogue about race, forget about it. Nobody's ever going to want to sit down and talk with you because they're scared to death. They're already uncomfortable. And if they know that you're just waiting to jump on them for making a mistake, then you're going to be waiting a long time. Nobody's ever going to want to talk with you. Okay, so that's the first thing. The other thing I think for white people, and I think this is hard for them to do, for most of them to do, not all, but for most of them to do, is if you're going to talk about race with another person that's not the same race as you, if you're white, you probably should take a back seat. White people are not used to taking a back seat. Let's be honest. You're used to being in charge, especially when you're around people who don't look like you. When you're around people who don't look like you, you're used to being the boss. Well, when you're talking about race, if you're a smart boss, you're going to sit down and listen. You might still be in charge, but you probably would learn a lot more if you sat down and listened than if you felt like you had to be the person doing all the talking. And that's hard for some white people, not all, but that's hard for some white people to do. And then the final thing I've noticed with white people is they feel guilty. They start hearing things about what white people have done to black people. They start personalizing and thinking, well, I've never done those things, but they still feel guilty. Here's what I would say to that. God made guilt for a reason. Guilt's not a bad thing. You're talking about guilt like it's something bad. Guilt was created for a reason. So if you feel guilty, that's probably a good sign that you have some feelings. Because there are a lot of people who don't feel guilty at all about anything that's happened in black-white relationships. I tell you, if I was white and my race had perpetrated the things on black people that white people have perpetrated on me, I would probably feel guilty. So guilt is not a bad thing. Now, you don't want it to control you. If you're alive today, you've never owned a slave. You've never owned a slave. Okay? You have never been in favor of one person owning another person. You've maybe never said a bad thing about a black person. So you've maybe even done things to help black people. So what do you have to feel guilty about? I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't feel guilty, because those are your feelings. I don't have the right to tell you that. But I'm just telling you, I'm just saying, hey, I hope you don't feel that way. But if you do, hey, that's not a bad thing. In my book, that's not a bad thing. Okay, let's talk about blacks now. Why do blacks not want to talk about race? Blacks don't want to talk about race because they don't want to make white people upset. You see, I'm not one of those guys. I'm 62 years old. I don't know how much longer I have on this earth. And when I want to talk about something, I'm going to talk about it. I don't care if I'm at work. I don't care if I'm at church. I don't care where I'm at. Eating lunch. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it. And let me tell you why, because I don't want you to just think this is some arrogant response. Let me tell you something. There's a reason that you don't pick up your newspaper, or you don't turn on CNN, or you don't turn on MSNBC, or you don't turn on Fox News, or you don't turn on the local news and hear about a woman who got a gun and decided to just go out and start shooting everybody up. There's a reason that doesn't happen. Women face pressure many times more than men, because women are breadwinners in their family. They work. Sometimes some of them make more money than their husbands. Some of them are the primary breadwinners. But women are still required to do the things that a woman has traditionally done in this in this country. Cook, clean. And now you start talking about working full time, cooking and cleaning, raising the kid. That's a lot of pressure. There aren't any more June Cleavers walking around here in a dress and some high heel shoes and dusting the furniture. No, those ladies are gone. Okay. There aren't too many of those walking around. There might be a few, but not too many. This world, this is a two-income world we live in. All right. Unless you're an entertainer or a doctor or a lawyer or and even those guys. Patrick Ewing said, we make a lot because we spend a lot, so, hey, even those guys are looking for money. So I think it's important, guys, that we look at this. And again, back to the whole thing with the women. And it's important that we understand that it's hard to go out and continually talk about race if we're not willing to learn from other things that we've done. And we've got to be willing to do that. And I just think that we work hard and we sometimes just lose it. Sometimes we just don't think about what's going on. And like I say, when we're watching that news program, I'm getting off on a diatribe. Let me get back to what I was saying about women. The reason I need to talk is because that's how women get overdoing those things. See, men, we hold stuff in. We're tough and we just grit and bear it. And then guess what? We just explode. And that's when we go get that gun and starting shooting up everybody. And you see those things have been happening since 1980. You've seen that. And I'm not going to tell you who's been doing most of that shooting, but you've seen it. You know who's been doing most of those shootings. But I tell you who's not doing them: women of any color. Because women talk. Women talk. Women get things off their chest. We like to say, oh, women are always talking. Maybe we guys should do more talking. And we probably do less shooting if we did more talking. And so for me, I'm following the women because they have a lot better record than the men. They have a lot better record than men. And talking works. I'm even learning that in my marriage. Talking works. Talking doesn't fail. And so I'm trying to get better at it. And so that's why I believe we should talk. And so when I feel like I need to talk about race, and usually I'm at a boiling point, I've heard something's happened, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry. Or I'm at work and maybe someone mentioned something. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I got to say something about this. And I say it, and then we talk. And it's funny. When I first started doing that at my job, my boss would say, man, you better be glad you are not in the corporate world. You get fired. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't. Yeah, I mean, at my job, we talk about race. White people that are sitting next to me, I'll say something, and then they'll say something, and we discuss. We're not afraid to talk about it. Now we get our work done. We do what we have to do. But when things come up in the news, and it's not like every day we do this, but we're not afraid to do it. And I love my coworkers to death for that. They let me vent. They let me say what I have to say. They let me, because they know, man, Tony really feels this strongly. And I don't know if they all agree with me. They probably don't. But they let me go. They let me say what I have to say. And I'm sure they learned some things, and I learned some things from them. But that's how you make progress. You got to talk about stuff. And this whole idea of not talking about race and just putting it on the back shelf, man, that's for the birds. We got to get over that, guys. We have to get better at that. We have to get better at that. We have to be willing to sit down and talk about these things. And I don't mean just talk about them just for the talking's sake. I mean, we have to sit down and talk about them with the attitude of we're going to make changes. And mainly, I'm just going to be honest, mainly white people, that's on you because you're in charge. You're in charge. So you have to come to the table saying, we're not going to just have this conversation so we can say we had it. Oh, well, we had our Black Talk this month, February 13th. We had our Black Talk. No. Whenever there needs to be a Black Talk, you have one. And then you do something. You make some changes. Because there are plenty of things still to change in this country. We haven't gotten it right yet. Race is not, we haven't figured that out yet. We don't have that down yet. We still have a long way to go. And I know for a lot of people, you don't want to hear that. You love hearing people tell you, well, we are in a race neutral society now. And this is a colorblind, country now. And look, we had a black president. And yeah, we had a black president who told us that the rising tide raises all boats. What he forgot to tell us was your boat will never rise if it has a hole in it. Okay. So what you have to understand, guys, is it takes talking. It takes us opening up a dialogue and getting out there and being willing to risk our humanity to get this thing taken care of. Let's be willing participants in talking about race. And let's make some changes in this country because we still have a long way to go. Thank you so much for listening.